Today we're going to talk about trying new things.
Whether or not you want to. Sometimes it's out of desperation.
I'm Amanda.
I'm John.
We're the Hardscape Nerds.
Why Hardscape?
Because we escape so hard.
This is the time that I want to let you realize that this is probably a party that you don't want to attend, but you're locked in.
And we're back.
So I don't know about any of you all out there, the tens of you listening, but this year, workflow, I think it was pretty steady. But then we had something just completely bizarre happen and shifted us in a direction that we wouldn't normally go in, but we're here now.
The bizarre thing is we had a 3-week project just essentially vanish. We have his deposit and we don't know where this guy is. We don't know anything about him. That's been like over a month now. So we have no idea. We have his money, but we don't, he's not answering, responding to emails, calls, anything, text messages. So we did not work the entire month of September. We've never had that happen outside of the winter time. And so that was kind of a crazy experience. So now, after sitting around not having anything going on, we had a project that we would have normally passed up on. And all of a sudden it looked a lot more enticing to do. You want to describe the project?
So it is essentially an outdoor living space. And it's a full-on roof that is tied into the house, more so aesthetically only, but it has its own 4 posts to support it. It's using CMUs, concrete masonry units, to build a footer and then build
foundation block.
Yeah,
it's things you build a house on.
And so we have those underground and then some of those above for a retaining wall, but also kind of just a decorative knee wall that's going to be veneered, and a raised patio. It's replacing a deck that was there, but he's putting a hot tub on there. There'll be a fireplace and a grill island and then a little bar area. So
these are all things that we've dabbled with. Did not feel comfortable taking this on, but when you don't work for a month, you're okay pushing yourself a little bit more. So we have I believe the capabilities of it, and I know that I undervalue my experience, and I don't know. It's if we were busier, I wouldn't have done it. So maybe that's the reason why we were slow, is to kind of force us into this. I definitely feel comfortable now. There were some major learning curves. There still might be some more, but we learned about having the footer in our area. We have to have footers 36 inches deep, and that's what the architect called for. Unfortunately, it also said in writing, but not according to the picture of the drawing, it said that we have to go and tie into the existing foundation. Well, the existing foundation is like 7.5 feet deep. So now all of a sudden we're needing trench shoring and digging a hole that we never expected. 3 foot deep's not really a big deal to dig out, but now when you're 7.5 feet deep, yeah. we were still able to do it with the same machine. It's like a 35 series machine, but just getting in a hole like that, it was not comfortable. I was in a hole much deeper than that. Is when we actually did our sewer for our house, and it was 17 feet below ground. And I said that was both times that I did it. My first time and my last. That was, I had no desire to ever get that deep again, and that project was absolutely insane, where we had a guy at the bottom of it who was 6 foot something, and you could not even see the top of his head when you were just standing above. We needed like 2 ladders kind of going sideways to actually get in that hole. And anyways, I never want to, I don't care for heights and I don't care for depths. So yeah, so this is forcing us to do stuff that I'm not comfortable with in that regard, and turned it into a much larger project than just going to 3 foot. If we would have had more time, then we could have consulted another engineer, because the inspector said that we could just knock out cells in the wall and grout it, and stick a concrete vibrator down there, and but basically tie into the foundation that way, into the foundation block. And so the inspector said we could do that, but the engineer on the project said we could not. So if we would have, knowing what we know now, absolutely would have just hired a new engineer, because this is probably about $15,000 extra work that didn't need to happen, whereas an engineer is going to cost $1,000 to $2,000. That would have saved a whole lot of money. So we went to school.
Or even if there's an addition and there's the original house, and it was presumed that the addition was just a crawl space by the architect.
The architect, yeah.
So we would have been kind of splitting the difference at that point, where we'd have to go deep on the house and not the addition. But that wasn't accurate either, so.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of digging, and the trench shoring, I don't regret it. It definitely, because we did have a collapse, and thankfully no one was in there before we got the trench shoring in, so that would have been devastating. So yeah, it turned into a much bigger project than we expected. We rent excavators typically. We own a track loader, but we rent excavators as needed, because we use different sizes on almost every job. And the tough part was sending it back and getting it again. And so it was just, knowing what we know now, we would have just kept it for a month. And
we also use a different rental place than we normally do. We normally stick with Bobcat, and we chose a smaller local to the job, like 5 minutes away.
Yeah, and that didn't really help. The smaller places, if you're going to rent something for a few hours, they're okay. But where we rent from is Bobcat of Pittsburgh, and they really work with us. So, and we probably spend $15,000 a year there, which is, that's a decent amount of money for just renting excavators. I know that we could purchase a machine for about payments in that realm, but I've never had to put tracks on a rental. I've never had to, other than fuel it up. I don't grease them. I don't, unless it's squeaking. That's it. So that's a whole nother topic. That's some of the hidden costs of owning that you don't typically hear, and everybody just wants to own, but you're also responsible for the maintenance too. And also, what happens if an engine blows? You're spending $20,000 on a machine that's basically a 8,000 pound paperweight at that point. And it happens. And when it's a rental, it's not your problem.
And if you own it and then it goes down and then you have to rent to finish a job,
now you're double. Yeah.
Units.
Yeah. So it's rough. The main reason we don't rent, because we don't have the cash. We're trying to completely get out of debt. We got the business out of debt a while ago, and we're still working on the last of the student loans. And it just had a health scare back in 2020, and I'm thinking I'm never going to be able to work again. And I'm staring out the window at 3 payments. I had a truck payment, excavator payment, and a track loader payment. So I have about $3,000, actually more than that, in payments just in those. I think we had a trailer too, a flatbed trailer. So a whole lot of money's going out every month. And when you're looking at, like for me, when I was looking at I can't work, that was a terrifying experience. Like, how am I going to get out of this?
Well, take that, and then even just with the economy currently, like we said, we never expected somebody to just completely vanish into thin air. Like, literally have not heard from this guy. Like, I'm trying to Google him to see if something happened, like hoping that he's okay. But that wasn't even devastating, missing work for a few weeks, because we weren't desperate. Like, we knew we needed to work, but we weren't panicked. We didn't have the payments to try and maintain.
The business doesn't owe anything. The business was debt free. So yeah, that was comforting that we didn't have to work. Personally, we're still trying to get out of debt, so it's tough taking a step back, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been if we were a few years ago and we were leveraged up to our eyeballs in debt. Anyways, main purpose is we're just talking about this project that we're doing, and so there's a lot that's kind of overkill. I tend to over-engineer things, but this engineer who's on the project is a little bit excessive. It's
like everybody but him that we've talked to thinks this is way over the top.
This is nuts. Yeah. So it's not just me. And when the inspector is saying that, like, yeah, you don't need to do all the work that you're doing, but so that's where, if you do have work, it's good to have a backlog so you can, knowing what we know now, we would have spoke with the homeowner, said we need to find another engineer,
which probably would have led to another architect and amending the permit or something. I don't know.
That's why we didn't, because there was more than just one specialty involved, and it just we're needing the work, so that's why it's never good to be desperate.
The other piece is it's such a tight area. There's room for the project itself, but because we're expanding the footprint more than what was there with the deck, the room for staging anything is limited, and I don't know, it's just logistically tight.
Yeah. If you want to see how the project progresses, check us out on our YouTube page, Rolling Hills Landscapes, and because we post time-lapse videos unedited. The reason we post unedited time-lapse is so that other contractors can use our production rates, and they can see how long it took us to do a certain task. We have nothing to hide, and there's a lot. We just put everything out there, and I don't make it flashy, partially because I don't have the time, because I'm a contractor, not a YouTuber. And the main focus is actually getting the job in the ground, not capturing every single second of it. Because if I'm running a camera, then I'm not running a machine, and I'm not. That's my specialty. I could care less if I do this on YouTube or not, or the podcasting. This is the whole purpose of this, is to just try and help other people, help myself. 20 years ago, that's kind of my big mission on this, because I've gotten so much bad advice over the years that just want to kind of help somebody else not have to make all the same mistakes that I made, which are many, many, many. Yeah.
The big thing with YouTube too, I like to use it as a sales tool, and I tell homeowners, one, like to your point, you have them and they're unedited and you can use them for production rates. 2, just with complete transparency, if we tell you we're going to do something, you can actually prove it in video that that's being done. So it's come in handy a lot of times to just show people, hey, here's an example of a project similar to yours. This is what it's going to look like through the process.
Yeah, it's our clients are pretty detailed, and it shows a whole nother level of the construction project than just a picture at the very end. So they get to see how it was actually done and how hard it was, and it actually helps justify the price. They get to see that, why a $30,000 project is a $30,000 project, because here's a similar one, and this is how much time it's going to take, and that's how much it's going to take professionals to do. So all of a sudden, their thoughts of doing it themselves kind of goes out the window when they realize how much soil will be removed and how many aggregates brought in and whatnot. So it's very dissuasive for them in that regard. So that kind of helps as a sales tool.
Yeah, especially when a small project, you're probably at least still taking out probably 20 ton of material and then bringing the equivalent back in. I don't know a homeowner that has the resources to get it out and haul it away and handle all that.
In their minds, it's not that big of a deal, but when you start moving it, by hand, and that's frequently work brought in the middle of the DIY projects, because to do all that with a wheelbarrow, when you don't have the experience, is a lot. What else you got?
I got nothing.
All right. Proverbs 14:23, in all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. Let's stop talking and make something happen. Thank you both for listening. Be sure to share this with your in-laws, your outlaws, that friend who doesn't appreciate personal space. They sure won't bother you anymore.